Hello guys and welcome back to a new video. As you can see, I am back to the office. But guys, what the fuck is this slate? 4 game slate and actually one of the worst slates I ever seen. But I will still have an official bet, so make sure to stay tuned. Before we dive into the slate, quickly going over the weekend recap, as I didn't have time to do the recap over the weekend. We had 4 losers and 3 wins over the last 3 days. Got lucky on Cason Wallace win in an overtime, but also got unlucky on 2 bets. Kevin Porter Jr. over lost because of blowout. He was on the pace to cover. And then Luka Doncic, another one that loses because of an unexpected blowout. Didn't touch the court in the fourth, but also was on pace to cover. So got lucky on one, but kind of unlucky on two. And then last night, Jabari Walker, I predicted Nemhard not playing. We got plus money. It closes minus 135. Great stuff on our end, but he doesn't cover. So sometimes, even when you are right, doesn't mean you get a winner every single time, but still had great value on the bets. And let's now dive into this today's slate. First game on the board, Rockets against the Wizards. Rockets playing away game and they are 15.5 points favorites, and it all makes sense. Best players on the Wizards are not even playing much. Keisham George, probably the best player on the team right now. Last couple of games, we can see he didn't even play much. He's averaging 20 minutes a game over the last 10. And even though, for example, against the Raptors, it wasn't a blowout. He played 15 minutes, no foul trouble, nothing. So, yeah, tough one. Similar stuff going on with Trey Johnson, Koulibaly, Carlton Carrington. So, rough one to predict. If they are close, they get benched more than if they are losing by a lot. Because if they are close, there is chance for them to win, and they just can't win. They don't let them win. They must lose. So when the game is close, they actually get benched more than in games where it's a huge blowout. As you can see, Carlton Carrington played the most minutes in a blowout against the Hornets, while some other games, like close games, he gets less minutes. Think it's a similar stuff with Keishon George. Like he played the most minutes in a blowout against the Cleveland Cavaliers, but then some like a win against the Pistons, he only played 18 minutes. So yeah, if there is some patterns, the pattern is if it's a close game, they play less minutes. Crazy, right? Crazy stuff happening into the late February, and we are now back to the March. So no bets on the sides of the Wizards because it's mostly random minutes. On the side of the Houston Rockets, could be an interesting spot for Eamon Thompson without the main guys. But last time they played, he scored barely scored 18 points, barely covered in 35 minutes. He had huge minutes, even though it was a blowout. So yeah, rough one. Think 17.5 could be fair. If you have 16.5 minus 114, definitely could be a bet up to minus 125. But at 17.5, I ain't touching this. Could be, I would say, decent spot for Alperen Şengün over 15.5 points, rebounds, and assists. Not enough for me to make it an official bet, but last couple of games, 35 minutes, 31 minutes here, 32 in a blowout, 36 in a blowout. So he's kind of playing 30 plus minutes no matter what. I was even 31. So 31 to 41 minutes on the season. He's averaging 16.1 rebounds and assists. If you take a look in games without Adams, 16. And if you take a look at KD without Adams, still 16 rebounds and assist average. But this matchup is not like some other matchups. Looking at the rebounds and assists, they love the most to the opposing bigs. Second most assists overall, the most rebounds overall. So great matchup for Alp. And if you take a look at some correlation when he's playing favorable matchups in rebounds and assists allowed, we can see that he's averaging 17 rebounds and assists covering 72% of the games. If you take a look at the probably like defensive rating, let me just quickly find. I think there is a correlation with defensive rating. I don't know, never checked, but I'll check it on the spot. And he's playing teams below average in defense. Actually, not much correlation there. Still 16 average, but yeah, not much of correlation with poor defenses. Let's now look at the pace and his pace playing against teams favorable in pace, which means they are playing top 5 pace of the league. Then he covers this in 8 out of 10 games, averaging 18 rebounds and assists. If you go a bit further, like teams who are above average in pace, top 15 teams in pace, he covered in 15 out of 18 games, averaging 18 rebounds and assist average. So let's try to combine pace with rebounds and assists allowed to his position, but I don't think that changes much. If you do both favorable, still 18 rebounds and assist average. So great matchup, huge chance for a blowout. So need to be cautious about that. But no Jabari Smith and no Steven Adams. If you take a look at the players, we can see that after Şengün, guy with most rebounds, Steven Adams, fourth guy, most rebounds, Jabari Smith. So second and fourth guy on the rebounds per game are out. So maybe some boost on his rebounds. But last game against Heat, no Jabari Smith, no Adams. He only had 6 rebounds, and lately we can see that he's averaging not even 8 rebounds a game. So that's very weird. Not the best of Şengün as of late, playing pretty poor in 2026. So that's it from the first game. Moving on to the second game, Celtics against the Bucks, and here we have a first official bet on the show, and it's going to be Sam Hauser over 2.5 threes. Minus 122, minus 127 to 20. I would say I play up to minus 129 on DraftKings. So between minus 122 up to minus 129. I'll go with FanDuel as always. Whenever there is a line in FanDuel, I mostly be using FanDuel as it's the biggest sportsbook widely available. So this one is very interesting. I'll first start with some data. Starting always, as I always preach, start with expected minutes. Then I'll just check last 10 games to see the minutes. 29 in a blowout, 27 in a blowout, 24 in a blowout. So his floor is kind of 24. So if you take a look at the entire season, setting expected minutes 22 to 32, I will go 24 to 32. And let's use the games with Jaylen Brown because he is their biggest scorer and most important guy. And then with Jaylen Brown playing 24 to 32 minutes, we can see that he covered this line in 16 out of 27 games, averaging 3.3 threes made per game. Now let's do the matchup. We can see that all green, catch and shoot, above the break, spot up, looks great. Defense against position, third most. So let's do this filter, defense against position. And if we take a look at when we exclude just top 5 in defense against his position, now he hit this line in 15 out of 23 games, 65% win rate. In these, like with Brown against teams outside top 5 against position in these minutes. And let's now take a look at the last 15 games for Bucks defense. And last 15 games, they allow the most threes in the league, second most catch and shoot, the most above the break threes, and they are 6th worst defense. And at the same time, they are 4th best paying defense, which means they don't let anyone drive to the rim, but they are helping a ton. They are using a ton of players to protect the rim, which means shooters are being left wide open. And when we take a look at similar players by position against the Bucks over the last 15 games, we can see 9 out of 15 guys covered, but they covered by 50% more threes than their closing lines. We can see Buzelis 4 threes, 4 from 9. Andrew Wiggins 1.5 line, he scores 4 threes on 8 attempts. Even Brandon Ingram covered 6 attempts. Banchero can shoot 6 threes attempts. Looking further, Trey Murphy, so far the best shooter out of here, 12 threes on 19 attempts. I'm kind of surprised that Dean Wade didn't cover, but he got lower minutes and had 3 attempts. Also, the one that didn't cover was Sadiq Bey, but he got 7 attempts here and made 2 threes, which is, yeah, on 7 attempts. If Hauser gets 7 attempts, he should cover more often than not. So yeah, looking at Herb Jones, not a shooter. not a movement shooter at least. Siakam as well, not a shooter. These guys are just similar by position. So yeah, if you take a look on the shooters, they did great. Like Sadiq Bey here, 4 from 7. And as I said, like Trey Murphy kind of skewed these numbers, but Trey Murphy probably the only great shooter out of these guys. Maybe Wiggins can go in hand, but yeah. So overall, guys similar to him did great. Matchup is absolutely amazing, and even if you don't include any matchup into it, he's still covering almost 60%. So first official bet on the show, Sam Hauser over 2.5 threes. Also, guys, before we move to the next game, just want to say thank you for all the support. Great number of likes, great number of new subscribers coming in. Comments are absolutely amazing. I love you all, guys. Thank you for all the support. And when we already are here, smash that like button once again to help the channel grow. And now next game on the board, Clippers against the Warriors. This one will be interesting because Darius Garland could be back. We have lines for him and he's probable to make a debut for the Clippers tonight. But John Collins could be out as they are on second night of back-to-back against the Golden State Warriors. He returned last game, but now back-to-back first game after return, so he could be out. And for this game, we are going to have big same game parlay. I won't track it, it's complicated, but I like this one. And it's Brook Lopez over 4.5 rebounds, Brook Lopez 2 plus threes, and Kawhi Leonard under 4.5 assists. It's plus 456, plus 456. Great price for this on FanDuel. Bet smaller, quarter of a unit or half a unit on this is great, and I'll now show you why. First though, let's dive into the Brook Lopez lines. First, I'll dive into the rebounds. We can see last couple of games he's been rebounding really well. Over the last 5 games, he's averaging 6.6 rebounds. The only game that he didn't cover was against the Orlando Magic, where he got only 22 minutes in a game. But let's take a look at the entire season without Ivica Zubac. Without Ivica Zubac, when he gets expected minutes, which is, I will say, probably 22, I would say 23 to 37. And then we can see that he's averaging 5.3 rebounds and covered this in 70% of the games. But Collins could be out as well. Without Collins, 2 games. Without Collins and Zubac, he had 7 and 6 rebounds. So on top of this, we could get additional that John Collins is out. So then Brook Lopez becomes a much better one. Also, we can see that 2 unders, couple of unders actually came against tough matchups against the Houston Rockets. If you exclude Houston Rockets here, we can see that he's covered this in 8 out of 10 games, averaging 6 rebounds in a game, and we have 4.5 line. Also, additionally, on top of this, his threes, and he gets this kind of minutes on the season. He covered these 3-point lines in 50% of the games, but I will say some matchups were rough. For example, against Houston Rockets, I'll just use defense against position, and we can see some of the rough matchups like Cleveland Cavaliers, Lakers, even though he covered in one of these games. So almost no teams who are outside of top 16, only played against 4 of those, covered against the Wolves, short against the Detroit and Wolves, and then 9 threes against the Portland Trail Blazers. But the thing about this matchup is we need to look at similar players. And similar players against the Golden State Warriors covered in 11 out of 13 games, averaging 22% more threes than the closing lines. And also take a look, like 11 out of 13 covered, all green. And the guy that didn't cover here, Embiid, shot 0 from 6. So even he, who didn't cover, which is rare, he had 6 attempts from 3. So this is kind of mostly a matchup thing. And if you take a look head-to-head games for Brook Lopez against Golden State Warriors, he had 0 threes against Golden State Warriors. But on average, he played 17 minutes on average. And in those 17 minutes average, he attempted 4 threes and 4 threes. So he attempted 8 threes in total of 34 minutes against the Golden State Warriors. So if we have him at 30 minutes tonight, that means he attempted like 7 threes per 30 minutes against Golden State Warriors this season. And Darius Garland in the lineup could definitely help him get better looks because he can kind of organize and play pick and pop with Brook Lopez. So yeah, that's part on Brook Lopez. And lastly, going to Kawhi Leonard assists and why I'm betting the under. On the season, he's averaging only 3.7 assists per game. If you include the games where he played more than 38 minutes, and if you exclude the games where he played less than 26 minutes, we can see that he's averaging 3.83, stayed under this line in 65% of the games. Matchup, not great, not terrible. They're averaging assist allowed, average to assist allowed to his position. But there's one key thing for this, and that's James Harden being out. When James Harden was out, so when he played without the main creator, he averaging 4.5 assists and covered this in 7 out of 13. But with Harden in the lineup, we can see that he covered in only 7 out of 26 games, averaging only 3.4 assists per game. And now, obviously, Darius Garland is not James Harden, but he is now back to the lineup and he'll take the keys of creating for this team. So Kawhi Leonard numbers, assist numbers should definitely drop here. So I'm choosing that one as the third leg to our same game parlay on FanDuel plus 465 now. Great price for this one. Also, make sure to shop around. I wouldn't be surprised if some other sites have this at like 475 or even maybe 500. So make sure to shop around. But that's my take on this game and my bet on this game. Now let's move to the last game on the board. It's Denver Nuggets against the Utah Jazz. And for that game, tank mode, tank mode, tank mode of Utah Jazz. Keyonte George returned last game, which is important, but played only 23 minutes. So he could be on heavy minutes restriction once a game. No, not plenty of games where he played less than 30 minutes this season, but when he did, he averaged 25 minutes, only 12 points. But I would say, looking at this here, these are mostly games that were huge blowouts and games where he played poorly and then got benched. So you're only looking at his worst performances of the season. So I definitely need to take that into account. Other side, maybe a decent spot for Ace Bailey, especially if he 14 and a half when he gets like the minutes without Lauri Markkanen. He's averaging almost 16 points a game. The matchup is pretty good, so could be leaning there, but no one is safe. Last game he played 30 minutes, only shot 4 from 16. Very poor efficiency for him. Cody Williams got only 21 minutes last game, so I don't know what's going on here. Like 38, then 14. Yeah, rough one. Nikola Jokic, I don't expect him to force stuff, but triple double is minus 160. If you had minus 125, minus 130, definitely the bet. But at these huge juice lines, I don't see it. We can see earlier this season he played Jazz and had 14 points, 13 rebounds, and 13 assists. Absolutely smash this line, which makes sense as they allow they are worst defense in the league and they allow ton of assists, ton of rebounds. So especially with guys out like no Nurkic, no Kessler, so the rebounding is horrible. I will target shooters on the Denver Nuggets side, but we can see the Cam Johnson is doubtful, and there is no lines for Tim Hardaway Jr. That will probably be my guy to target, especially on threes. Can't target Strother. He kind of fell apart last 2 games. And can't do much on Christian Brown because not a huge fan of him. So yeah, that's it, guys. Smaller, weaker slate. We have one official bet and one interesting. I know you guys love big same game parlays, so I shared my angle on those big odds, long odds, and yeah, that's it. Huge slate tomorrow. Can't wait to do some proper research and dive into the great slate. So thank you for watching and see you tomorrow.